ready to get started here. I think we're live now. Then I'm gonna get into Caleb, kind of his whole deal that he posted and all that stuff, and then we'll go down the list, man. Whatever you guys want, just bring it on up. So, and you're getting close, huh, Scott?
Oh,
looks like.
Hold on.
All right, go ahead.
Hold on. The light's turned off.
Okay.
Hey man, hold on for a second.
I got you. Everybody wants me to hold on.
Somebody say something.
Hold on. Jeremy Compton's calling.
All right.
Why?
Scott, say something.
What are you doing? Sounds good.
I'm trying to start a podcast, but people are calling me.
How are you?
Hang on.
Okay. We'll be
Hang
done
on.
in time for you to come by.
Hang on.
Hang on.
What is he doing?
Dean, they go on your head, right over your ears.
I was trying to get the volume to come up. I can hear myself in the headphones, can't hear y'all.
You can't hear us?
Wait a minute.
I wonder if it's
Wait a minute. Audio speaker.
how about now?
No.
Fuck.
Hang on.
No,
Put it on
here
mute,
goes Caleb
Caleb.
again. This is organized chaos.
Speakers. All right, somebody say something.
Hello. Howdy. No? All right, that's not my fault. Let's see.
But did you hit record?
Yeah, well, it's definitely recording. Hello, Dean.
I'm gonna go this way. I'm good. Let's whatever.
All right, it sounds good. I even put a new rug in my office here, so I have better acoustics on my end.
Hey,
We are
wait a minute. I have
professional.
another idea.
Uh-oh.
Wait a
Have you
minute.
tried turning them off and turning them back on? That's always what people
Hang on.
say. Have you tried?
All right,
turning
say
them off?
something.
Howdy. How are you? What's going on? What's the world? It can't be. Okay, so you got like Scott, you just put this in here, connect it to your computer, and then the headphones. It's one button. Okay, I heard
All right,
something.
somebody say something.
Hello, howdy. How about now? We are professional broadcasters. We are professional. So you have this cord plugged into your laptop, right? This cord right here. And then you have the mic. I mean the headphones. Yes? Well, now I can't hear you either. It's going from bad to worse. Can't hear you.
We lost Caleb again.
We lost Caleb, lost Dean. I'm going to have to post this video. People, when I talk about herding cats, can't hear you, Dean. Can't hear you, Dean.
His little microphone thing has a little X to it again.
Oh, let me see if I got that. Hold on. Let me see. How does he's muting it.
How about now?
Yeah, now he's muting it. No one, I was like, I'm not muting that. I think you accidentally hit me. Yeah.
Whatever. Never mind.
Yeah. Caleb, are you off the phone?
Quit trying to be fancy.
I'm off the phone.
Get off the phone.
I was just trying. All my lights turned off.
On your computer?
No.
At your house?
We'll go with that. Yeah.
Well, you look good on our end. So now people know why this thing can be like herding cats. Here we go. All right, guys, the Bite Me podcast somehow got on the air again. I don't know how we do it. And if you'd have seen behind the scenes right there a second ago, you'd agree with me. John Lopez here. We got the whole band back together. Captain Dean Thomas, Captain Caleb McCumber, Captain Scott Null, and a bunch of listeners here live on the YouTube channel. You can do that every day. Every week we try to go about the same time, about 3:30 to record it, and then we post all over wherever you get your podcast. You can subscribe. Name a podcast platform. The Bite Me podcast is there. And of course, the Bite Me group page is popping as always. Lots to cover today, lots to get through, lots of questions. But I'm going to start with this. I'm dealing with three of the best guides anywhere, and I want to get to Caleb's story here in just a second. But the topic came up from the numbskull that I work with in my day job at Sports Radio 610. They said they're fish. I was talking about Captain Scott and Captain Dean and Captain Caleb, and he goes, "They're fishing guides. How hard can it be? They're not real captains." And I was like trying to get it all like, okay, you don't understand what these guys have to go through. Why haven't you ever been a captain? Because I don't want to do that. I don't want to go through all that stuff. So I called him various names. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to bring it up on the podcast to get started because I know our listeners are knowledgeable and love you guys and book with you guys, which I always appreciate because you guys are so good. But I'll bet you that's not the first time you guys have heard that. I'm going to start with Caleb on this one. Caleb, I bet you that's not the first time, like you're at a cocktail party or with people who don't fish, and they're like, so what do you do? Well, I'm a fishing guide. So, like, take it from there. I mean, I'm sure you get a lot of numbskulls that think it's just like, you turn on the boat and go.
Cocktail party, hell, my wife won't even accept that that a captain does anything.
I got problems in my own house.
Yeah, people, every Sunday I hear it. I gotta go to work. Caleb doesn't have a job. I'm like, this is all I've done since like 2016. It's not a job. It's not a job. You're just having fun.
Oh boy, it's an ongoing thing.
People ask me, what do you do for a living? I say, well, I fish for a living. That's way easier than saying I have a podcast or a YouTube channel, because then they want to know what video game you play. I say I fish for a living. Oh, like offshore? No, fish inshore. Yeah. Oh, so like you catch stuff for fish sticks? Yep, that's what I do.
That's it.
Just change the topic. Like I don't even. It's funny because Scott and Dean can both attest to this. When you first get your license, it's like, oh, I'm a fishing guide. I'm a guide. I have trips tomorrow. And then after about 10 years, it's like, yeah, dude, me and Gordon, we go out and fish for fish sticks. So what are you up to? Like,
I'll bet you get a lot, Dean, of you mean like World's Dangerous Jobs or Wicked Tuna? People think like you're or that it's really easy, one extreme or the other. Because that's what Landry was saying. He's like, they just get on a boat and take people fishing.
Man, I find the emails and the phone calls to be more difficult than the actual fishing trips. But it's full of a variety of challenges, actually. But yeah, I've heard that many times. It's like, man, all you do is go fishing. Yeah. It's just that easy.
Yeah,
Scott,
the boat cleans itself. All the gear cleans itself. Fish clean themselves. Everything takes care of itself. All you got to do is go out there.
What I was telling him, Scott, is like, I don't think that you understand. Like, these are captains, like licensed captains. There is studying and there's tests and there's all this other stuff. But take us through it real quick, because I'm sure we have a lot of listeners that don't know exactly what you guys do, Scott.
So, a part of that is these people's safety is in our hands that day. Of course, we love to go fishing. We put people on fish, but you're on a boat. You're on the water. Nothing in that boat is childproof. Everything is hard and sharp and will hurt you. It's slippery. It's wet. You're fighting fish. There's flying hooks around. And you are there to make sure these people come home safe first and foremost, and then have a good time. And then you still try to put them on the fish of a lifetime. So anybody who doesn't think that that's a bit of a challenge, I welcome them to join the club and show me how it's done.
But Scott, go ahead.
All I have to say is, when Miss LSU ends up topless on your boat, it's not because it's an easy job. All right,
this is true.
We are struggling out here.
Yeah,
we need some.
Somebody's
respect.
got to do that. Somebody's got to hold the bikini top. Somebody's
Put that sunscreen on them
Yeah.
upper thighs.
And that's the safety part. We can't allow sunburns on the boat.
No matter where it might be. No matter where it might be.
And then throw in the guys who want to come out there and drink a bunch of beer on the boat too, because it's their day off. They're going fishing. They want to drink some beer, and that just doubles everything. Now you're watching even
Guys
more
stumbling and falling off the boat. So what is the process, Scott? You probably know it right off the top of your head. Beginning soup to nuts. You want to be a guide, a licensed captain in Texas. Just take us through that pretty quick here.
There's a Coast Guard test. I mean, I have talked to people who actually went and took the test, studied on their own, and managed to take the test. And then they took the test again after studying some more, and then they studied some more, and they took the test again and finally passed it. The best way to go about it is to go to one of the schools. Captain Roy's is where I went. I think Caleb went there as well. There's a C school, and they will run you through and teach you everything that you need to know. And that's generally the easiest way to go about it. Costs you a bit of money. You got to get your physical, and you got to have your hearing test and eye test and all that good stuff.
Don't forget the TWIC card.
Yeah, and you got to get a TWIC card. You got to get.
I gotta cut Scott off for just a second here. I swear to you, one of the questions, Scott, am I wrong? Says, have you ever murdered someone? And if so, was it in the past 3 years? And I'm looking around like, man, which one of these psychos can't pass this right now?
Which one of them did it 4 years ago? That's the guy I want to avoid. He's got the itch. He's got the itch. I don't mind the 3 years ago. He's still feeling the brunt of the pain there, but I want the guys 4 years and longer. That's who I'm watching right there.
All right,
So
I'm sorry, Scott.
Go ahead. TWIC card.
I mean, mine was in '87, so I mean, it's been a while.
Yeah.
But I mean, you got to go through all that. Then you got to take the test, and you got to wait and wait and wait. I mean, nothing moves fast. Like getting a passport. Uh-oh.
Yep. Somebody's at the door.
Hey, Luna.
Somebody's at the door, Luna. Ain't nothing getting by her.
No. But you
Go ahead.
You take the test. You got to wait forever. Just like with a passport, and waiting on the federal government to move along. And then you finally
like
get
nerve. That seems like a nerve right there.
But, and then what is it? It's every 5 years you have to renew it, and you got to get a physical and resubmit all your paperwork. You got to have sea time. I forgot all the hours, but you have to have a certain number of hours running a boat over the last 5 years in order to qualify. There's a bunch of hoops to jump through. And, I mean, it's not impossible, of course. I mean, Caleb managed it, but
I made 100 on every test. The only thing I had to study for was I made 100 on every test the first try. I have a photographic memory. I memorized all the answers, and then I was able to match them to the question instead of the other way around. Because
could you answer them now?
No, a captain's license doesn't have anything to do with running a fishing boat. But by golly, I know how to pass a barge in France. I mean,
that's right.
I can plot. So I can plot a course across Chesapeake Bay with a 40 mile an hour crosswind and a 10 knot current.
Hey, when we flew into the Little League World Series, we flew over Chesapeake.
We're raising a lot of scars here. We're picking at a lot of scars here.
We flew over Chesapeake, flying into Baltimore for the Little League World Series, and I was like, I finally saw the damn thing. There it is. Like from that point to that point, you have the bearing of. See,
some of our listeners may not know what y'all are talking about. Those are like questions on the test. Like if you're doing this,
there's one whole section on the test that is all about math. I mean, it's just a bunch of math, and you got to plot courses. You got to, as if you're running a tanker across Chesapeake Bay with like Dean said, a 40 mile an hour wind from the northeast and a 3 knot current in your face. And now the tide's going to change, and how long is it going to take you to get from point A to point B?
And then
it has zero to do with what we do.
And if there's a trawler coming down the channel, he's going to have a black ball and a black square up on the mast. And that's going to tell you if they have nets out, if they're underway. And then if you have a tanker coming down, you're going to have a green and a white light over a yellow light. And every one of those lights are going to tell you what their intentions are. And
just so
you got to memorize all the lights. And
three red amber
all the
lights.
flags.
If they have 3 red amber lights, they're laying mines. So you want to avoid that.
And then the dredge, you have the dredge pipes and wrecks, and yes, all of those things. So join the club.
I have purposely forgotten all that, and now you're dragging it back up.
Well, you guys are illustrating.
Hey, we don't want to hurt your head.
Exactly.
I had terrible bronchitis going through that class, and I was subscribed Tussinex, which is strong hydrocodone. I just kind of floated through that couple of weeks, man. I remembered it then, but I don't even know what my teacher looked like at this point.
So that's why anytime someone asks me, how come you never became a guide? What y'all are just talking about right there. I don't have time for it. I want to go fishing when I want to go fishing, not when I have to go fishing. And I'm having too much fun doing all this other stuff with the podcast and the broadcasting and the games and the OG sauce and all that stuff. All right, so Caleb, I gotta tell you, man. You know, I read your post. I was very proud of what you did at the redfish tournament. And you kind of got me right here. You kind of got me here. Yeah, you did.
Should I get into journalism?
I didn't tear up, but I was like, oh. But I think there's something I want to talk to Dean and Scott about that. But you lay out what you were talking about on our group page.
Well, a couple of weeks ago, whenever I said that I was going to be making a decision this fall, I got a bunch of phone calls like, "Oh my God, are you quitting guiding?" And I was like, "Oh, I must be a great guy." Then they're like, "No, you owe us a trip because we paid you and we haven't done it yet." Oh,
so I'm not a great guy. I'm just that guy.
I'm just that guy. But no, we finished the regular season. I have the World Series left, and after that, I'm gonna take a break from the tournament trail that's taken me. It takes me out of town. I think I did it up. I'm like three months a year. I'm not here. I'm gone fishing somewhere, something like that. Month and a half, something. It's a lot of time, and you know what I see is when I'm here, me and Cade work every day. He throws a lot of pitches, hits a lot of balls, and we'll get things lined out. And then I'm gone for 2 or 3 weeks. And when I get back, you know, he's kind of relapsed a little bit, and it's not his fault. It's my fault. So, you know, that was the decision to be made. I'm going to be around the house. I'm still going to be doing the YouTube, the podcast, the guiding, all that kind of whatnot. I'm just not going to be gone chasing the Excalibur Tour for a little while. We're going to fish the World Series, and that's it for me for a while. You know, like I said in the post, there's a time whenever you have to prioritize your child's hopes and dreams over yours. And you know, Daniel and I had a good run. It's you know, that like I said in the post, Homa was the last place that I'd never cashed the top 3 check. That for whatever reason, that place always eats my lunch. I can get one good day. I can never get 2 good days. So we finally got that to happen. And come home, be a dad. We're gonna go take in some Aggie baseball and football games, and
baby.
And just go back to it. Now, whenever Cade's 16, 17 years old and doesn't need me anymore, whenever he has catchers and coaches, and it frankly just irritates him that I'm around, then, you know, maybe I'll be the gray-headed guy that shows back up and kicks a little bit of butt, because there's plenty of people that have taken a little sabbatical and then went back and still do well. So that's the plan.
Well, and it's I mean, you're in prime time now with your son, and what I want to talk to or ask Scott about, and then Dean, is there is a time and a place where it just enough's enough. You've raised your game, you've learned a lot, you've been around, and Scott, it's just a matter of like, you know what, I've experienced that, I've done it, and now I can just translate it to what I do in my hometown, right?
Yeah, Dean and I went through it. I mean, we went crazy with it. Yeah, we traveled to Florida, I don't know how many times, back and forth, driving to Florida and driving all over the place, fishing tournaments. And then all of a sudden one day it just like, you know, that was fun, but time's come to settle down and, you know, stay at home a little bit more, quit worrying about catching the biggest fish and just go have some fun.
Dean, what did the tournament trail do for you? What can Caleb expect? What is Scott experiencing? Because you said something the other day when we were talking about the Italians, who I want to get to later in this podcast, and you told me, you go, it kind of makes me step up my game when those guys are in town. I mean, is that kind of the long story short of tournament? You get the glory sometimes, you get the experience of being all around. You probably raise your game though too, right?
It does teach you a lot. It does. I mean, when the pressure's on, you really want to, you got all the eyes on you and you're expected to perform. You focus a little harder, you work harder, you cast more, you just do all the extra things that it takes. And so that does translate well, later into the career when you're out there trying to get, with guiding, it's such a different game though, because I'm not fishing. I have to get other people to catch the fish. And there's a difference between, guiding, lure, and fly fishing. I mean, you have to really encourage people to bring their game up. And I think if they know the story of, our history and our past and the things that we've done, they're going to get a little bit of that from us when they come out and fish with us. Other people always inspire me to work harder and push myself to the next level. So when I'm out there, I'm always trying to push my clients to, cast a little further, to work that lure just right, and, to get the payoff. All of that is to catch the fish. So that's it's a lot involved in the process. It's many years that lead up to where we're at now, and all of that is part of the experience that goes with it. I mean, I've said that before. Hanging around people that are better than me and committed makes my game. It makes me work harder.
It's something that I don't think people can really appreciate until you're in it, like what you three guys have been in it. I gotta believe, because even someone like me who's fished forever and done minor league tournaments, Caleb, there are times where, oh yeah, I remember that from here. I remember that from that. This water looks like that. I mean, you could just kind of draw on that stuff. So even just a fisherman who doesn't want to be a guide and just has been in some tournaments, that's where you can. I mean, you're always learning. Basically, is what I'm saying.
Well, it develops your gut reactions and your ability to recognize scenarios. The biggest difference between guiding and tournament fishing is you don't get to choose when you go tournament fishing. It's pre-fishing, all of it. It can be windy, it can be raining, it can be cold, it can be hot, tide low, so forth and so on. So whenever you're out there, working, you just get more in tune and feeling of everything. And we had some luck this weekend. I did not put a plastic on a jig head Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, because that's how many fish we saw. Nothing, not a one, nothing. Thursday, we went and looked at a place that I'd been in last week, and we saw maybe 6 or 8 fish. But we knew the tide was supposed to drop, and we had been in this scenario before where it looks terrible now, but if we can get the tide to because we were getting that storm surge off of that hurricane, if we can get the tide to drop 6 or 8 inches, then all the fish that are hiding on bottom, all that stuff, they're going to show up, right? So Friday morning we take off, we roll out. I ran about 80 miles one way from the where we launched at. When
80
we get close,
miles. You heard him correctly.
Yeah, 80 miles. And we're running Daniel's Cleaver prop, and it's a $7,200 prop. And we're running down intercoastal, deep water, all that stuff. And we're getting closer to where we were wanting to fish at. And I said, hey, where you want to take this prop off of? Because we always swap that prop out when we get to the marsh. Mm-hmm. He said, no, go ahead and just get to our first spot and we'll take it off there. And I was like, all right, cool. Where's our first spot? I mean, that's the plan we had, right? Yeah. But we got there, the tide had dropped, and we probably caught 30 or 40 fish a day, and it worked well. And all that translates, all that happens and works. Unless you're over by Dean's house, those fish are completely unpredictable and they're jerks.
We're going to get to that. In fact, let's get to that next, because we've been talking about what you guys do in guiding and tournaments. Let's get our listeners on some fish. All right, Scott, Dean, I'm going to start with you two guys. Look at the calendar. It's September 5th, man. September 6th tomorrow. It is still brutally hot. It is still brutally dry, although I did get a little bit of a shower here this morning. First one I've seen in a long time. Is this going to be a different kind of September, Scott? Because it's just like nothing has happened. Like nothing has happened since what, June? And a lot of times we talk about like things are behind. Does that happen when you go into the fall? I mean, what can we expect in September now?
We got that Indian summer thing going again.
God, I guess it's going to go till November. I mean,
yeah. Well, one of the long range forecast things I saw the other day that was on one of the Houston channels was talking about it being upper 90s and hundreds all through September. Like
that's what
this
I'm
high
talking
pressure
about.
System is just going to sit on us the rest of the, all the way in. I don't know, man. I was down at the deer lease this weekend. It was 109. I mean, we're out riding around trying to shoot doves, and it's 109 degrees, and we just went back to that.
Something
camp.
just seems wrong about that.
Yeah, we just went back to camp and drank beer.
That seems right. That seems much more right.
Seemed like a much better plan.
Yeah.
But on the fishing end, man, I really don't know. Usually by this time, you can count on it being a little bit cooler. Maybe there's a little bit of a cool front. It's never a cold front, but you get that first little north wind and things change a little bit. But a lot of this is also daylight hours. The animal world lives on that. They don't live on temperature as much as as we want them, or we think they do. Things are getting right. I can tell you the hummingbirds are here.
I saw that. I saw a couple pictures. Yeah.
And that always is the first signal. Any day we're going to get something a little bit cooler. It's going to come through. They rode in on that last little north wind that we had from the hurricane that went into Florida. It made things a little drier and a little bit cooler in the mornings. It was the first time it was under 80 degrees in the morning when I woke up. I
didn't even notice nice. Ours.
Yeah, it was 77 here, so that was interesting. But I mean, the days are getting shorter, and with that, the temperature can't help but cool down a little bit. And I guess we're over the hump, and maybe the fall stuff will start up. I know that the schooling redfish has started, so that kind of tells you that the redfish really don't care. They're just doing what they're doing. The shrimp get to the right size and they start migrating, and the fish are going to eat.
So, Dean, there is no predictability. I mean, normally you think, okay, we've had maybe even a tropical storm come through. I know we're not out of the woods on that yet, but you've had some rain, some summer rains. The high pressure hasn't always been above us. You kind of have not a pattern, but a predictability for what's coming in September. Can you predict anything in September and October right now?
I can't predict tomorrow.
Exactly.
But I can tell you that the gears are shifting down here. Scott said hummingbirds. We have teal flying all over the flats, tons of teal. I mean, that's a sign the seasons are changing. Today, we just destroyed them on topwaters. I mean, it was crazy. We had some schools of reds at the crack of dawn, looked like a herd of buffaloes going across the flats. We had topwaters blowing up until noon. We kind of left them biting when we were done. So, I mean, it's a sign. Plus, here we are on the third quarter of the moon, which I really despise that normally. We had wind blowing today, gusting 25, 26 miles an hour. And, every day is a new day out there, but the days are getting shorter. The calendar, says things are changing. The days especially, I mean, you can tell the sun isn't coming up cracking dawn until 6:30 or 6:40 right now, where, wasn't that long ago, it was daylight at 6 a.m. But I mean,
speaking of guides, I just
The
when
last-
you said that, Caleb's like, yes.
Yeah.
With his fist. Like
There-
that's what guides really care about. Hey, we need to get out there about 5:15. Yeah, I know.
That
Not my favorite
magical,
time. Not my
and as soon as
magical-
you get in the groove, then the
Yeah.
clock rolls
yeah.
back to 6 a.m. when we'll be launching at 7 in a month or so, and then they go and mess up the clock, and you're back to 6
Standard
a.m.
time, yeah.
Yeah.
But no,
Oh, that-
there's signs out here on our flats that and the temperature is still hot. I mean, believe me, it's misery at 10 o'clock. It's just brutal. That 25-mile-an-hour wind was just pleasant today, though. I mean, it was coming southeast off the water and kind of just what we do most of the year. But 3 weeks before this, I was on the troll motor all day, every day. And when it got to 9 a.m., people were just baking in the sun. And, we fished deeper water drop-offs. It opened up opportunity to fish in different places. But with the wind blowing today, we stuck to the flats. And it was good. I mean, so hoping to
Well,
duplicate
that's
that
music
tomorrow.
to my ears, man. That's music to my ears right there. I'm going down again, of course. Can't help myself. But Caleb, we're going to get back to Dean and the Italians. He tells some good stories about those people. But I got to ask you, that's what he calls them. I got to ask
That's what
you.
they call themselves.
Yeah. So I put it on the dock because basically this was a personal experience. This was not a question from a listener. I said crapshoot. When it's a crapshoot, how do you guys find the fish on slow days? Now I know we've just kind of covered that in a sense because you've got all this experience and knowledge and you've seen a little bit of everything. But whenever I was out there, I'll just tell you a story real quick. So I got out there with my wife this past week. She loves the kingfish. She's new to that and she's got the bug. So we went out there about an hour and a half of trolling. Nothing happened. So I said, all right, let's go to this. Let's go to the lighthouse, find some shallow water, but while it's still relatively cool-ish. Nothing happened. And I said, all right, let's go to this drop off over here that Dean was just talking about. And then she caught some trout there, and she asked me, and I'm not trying to pat myself on the back here or anything because I struck out in my first two places, but she asked me like, how did you know here? And I said, I have no idea. I just, it's just in there somewhere. And then but how do you explain that to someone? And that's why I came up with the question. Like when it's a crapshoot and you go from point A to point B, and then you realize, what, point C might be it, and you're right.
Man,
It's just in there. Scott's talked about it.
we just guess a lot.
Sometimes it's guessing. I mean, absolutely. I'm not going to say it's not.
There's a million and one answers to it, right? We go right back to the stuff we've talked about for the past 4 or 5 years or whatever on this podcast. It's sometimes it's moved something deeper, somewhere shallower, or whatever. But man, that's an hour-long answer.
Hey, man.
It,
she asked me that, and I felt like, well, maybe I was just lucky. And then I go back to what Scott's talked about, and Dean and you have talked about, like it's in there somewhere, and I couldn't quite place my finger on why I knew not any drop off, that drop off.
Yeah, I know. Here it is. You went on Facebook and knew the background.
No, I don't. Although I don't even hide my backgrounds. I don't care if people see.
But no, I mean, if I'm guiding or fishing for fun, and it's a slow day, then I'm gonna move slower and look at stuff slower, right? I think that one of the worst mistakes you can make is making big old long moves in between. Let's try this and let's try that. I'm going to move a couple of 100 yards maybe and check something out. And then if I go to 3 points that are shallow water and nothing's happening there, then I'll slide right back out behind me where the drop off is and mess with that. And then if that's not working, I'll get a little bit further out and I'll fish the bottom and just kind of meticulously pick it apart and see what happens. Right. Because where you started there for a reason, and it's not working out. So why go 20 miles one way to go, start something completely over? You've already checked what you wanted to do. Now somewhere that's pretty close one way or the other, go pick through that and work a whole area instead of a spot and then running a long way to another
I think
spot.
that's what I was doing. And Scott, you look like you're kind of chomping at the bit here to kind of weigh in. It is a crapshoot. Sometimes it is luck. But I know I went from the flats to that spot because of something I saw and experienced in the past or something. But how do you translate that to listeners that are trying to pick up on these things?
What I end up doing is, like on a polling trip, I just keep polling, and I very rarely run anywhere, but most of the places that I go, I've got 3 or 4 or 5 different bottom structures, depths. I got grass, I got shell, I got mud, I got sand, I got a drop off, I've got the edge of the cord grass, I got little bayous, and I just start picking apart each one. If the first one, 2 days ago they were on the grass flats, so that's where I'm going to start. And I'm out there polling the grass flats and it ain't working. Well, the tide's a little higher. Maybe they're in the bayous. Well, they go into the bayous, they're not there. Maybe they're in the back lakes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, tide's moving a little bit. Maybe they're on the oyster reefs. Maybe the oysters is the key. So I don't, like Caleb said,
You're eliminating things. Yeah, you're eliminating certain things, almost like an investigation.
Right. You just start going and you start looking and picking it apart that way. And then once you figure it out, then you have, okay, they're running the edges of the bayous right now. They're schooled up. They're running the edge of the bayous. They're chasing shrimp. If they're doing it in this bayou, they're doing it in the next one and the next one. And so now I know what I need to target for the rest of the day. Now there are days when none of it works. That happens. But an old cop told me one time when I was pretty young, I said something about, we had just barely escaped big trouble, and it was a gut reaction, to get away from out of a bad situation. And he and I were talking about it afterwards, and I said, I don't know what told me to do that. And he said, it was your gut. And I said, okay. He says, always listen to your gut. It's kept you alive this long. And that plays in everything that you do. Your gut instinct is your subconscious gathering all the information that you've got in there, things that you're not even thinking about that are back there in the back end of your mind somewhere. It's all cataloged. It's all in there. And your mind puts it all together for you when you smell a certain smell, or you smell that the slick, or you see something that just looks just right, and you've fished it before, but it doesn't hit you in the face. It's not like, oh yeah, I remember that was September of 2016 when I caught fish on, in that situation. It's just something that's in there, and it all happens all at once, and you really can't explain it.
And a lot of my decisions are based on whether I move or stay or stick with a spot is how things have been trending, that week before or 2 days before. If I had a flat that's just been really producing and I know they're there, they're just not biting at the moment, I'm going to stay there. I'm going to stick with that. But if you've had 2 or 3 days that have been kind of trending to where things are challenging, then I'm always going to bounce around more. And I'll tell my clients that when we take off in the morning, I'll tell them it's like, I just kind of give them the game plan of what I'm thinking of. This has been good. We're going to beat this one up real good here today to prove that they're there or not there. Or I tell them, I say, we're going to bounce around a lot today. I'm like, say, we're going to hit a lot of spots to see if we can figure this out today. So I try not to leave my people in the dark on the boat. I start explaining the thought process in the morning. So that thought process has a lot to do how the previous 2 or 3 days went.
I think a lot of people appreciate that. I know even people like me that don't professionally guide, if I get people on, friends, I always tell them, all right, this is what I'm thinking, maybe here, and then we're going to do this because of that. I think because people are just wondering instinctively, okay, where's he taking me? What are we going to do today? I think when you're pretty clear on things like that up front, they kind of they're more comfortable.
Yeah. I even tell them, I said, we're going to start close. This is going to be a short boat ride this morning. How many minutes it's going to take us to get there? Or I tell them, hey, we're fixing to go on adventure, get comfortable, grab something to drink. We're going for a ride. just so they aren't sitting there wondering what the hell is going to happen today.
Yeah. Caleb, I got to ask you to share the story that you are texting about here with the live. I didn't know this with our live audience here on YouTube. You caught a 12.25 pound, or what is it, 12.2 pound slot red?
Yeah, it might have been 12 and a half. I mean, that was just on bogus.
Dude, what in the world?
I mean, they're rare, but that's not super crazy.
It's pretty crazy.
River fish eating shad, man.
Yeah.
They'll do it. That's what I was talking about. If 20, because I have to answer it relatively truthfully. We start talking about a 28-inch fish in Louisiana. That 12.5 is like, that's a good fish. That's a great fish, but it would be I mean, you'd be pushing 13 over there. But yeah, now shad fish in the river, they get pretty big around.
Yeah, get those freshwater ones. Go ahead.
I had a 23-inch in the Brazos one time that was 8.5 pounds. It was a 23-inch fish. I mean, they were just gorging on shad. That's all they were. It looked like a bass. It was so big and thick. Only time I ever brought a 23 in to weigh in.
Exactly. Yeah, 23. They're like, look at that little. Whoa, wait a minute. Look at that little fish. Y'all seen that crazy? It's got to be fake, right? That fish that looks like a trout, half red. That someone caught from.
I think that was a Corvina.
But was it real?
Yeah. No, I mean it's a real fish.
Corvina.
I thought it was. I know Corvina's a real fish. I'm just saying. I'm thinking that was Photoshopped somehow with that.
Well, there's a dude like holding it on the jetties or something, right?
Yeah. He's got the tail.
Yeah. I think it was just. I've always wanted to go down and catch a Corvina and then make I'm not going to tell anybody that I left Texas and just catch me one that's about 42, not a real huge one, but screw with people's heads for a couple of weeks with one of them.
Yeah.
That picture, that fish had a red fish head.
Yes.
That was something was wrong with that thing.
Looks like Delaney wants to
natural.
Looks like Delaney wants to menage a fishing trip. She said we got to get out with Dean so I can have the trifecta. I won't take that part.
There'd be 3 people with broken boats now on this podcast.
Yeah.
The old menage a fishing trip. Don't take that personal, by the way. All right, let's talk Italian here. Dean, I know the guys are going to have something to say about all this, but you've got a great story, and this is one of the things that the reach of the podcast, the reach of you guys is. I know they are now podcast listeners, but they weren't originally. But you have some terrific, hardcore friends that come for a month every year.
Every year, 30 days
from Italy. Fill us in on that story, because I was intrigued, like how hardcore they are and how much they appreciate something that we kind of take advantage of, take for granted.
Yeah. So Alberto and Monica, they actually live in Monaco now, but they their family's in Rome, and they actually lived in Rome when I met them. So they supply fly fishing products to fishing shops. So they're like a wholesaler in Europe. They provide stores with fishing gear. They're a wholesaler, such as I don't know what you'd exactly call them, but they travel the world. They have fished Mongolia. They have fished all over Australia. They have fished. When they started coming to America, they were fishing up in Bozeman, Montana. Alberto and Monica actually placed on Martha's Vineyard, where they have the striper run. I forget what the name of the tournament is, but for 2 years in a row, she was on the podium fly fishing from land. Dang. So these guys are awesome. They can fish anywhere in the world that they want to fish, and they've come to Ranzas Pass for it would be 11 years in a row. They missed 1 year during COVID when they weren't traveling. But for 30 days, they are kayak fishing unless they jump on the boat with me and we go wade fishing. But when they're not able to fish with me, they're kayaking, and they go out at 7 a.m. and they fish until 5 in the afternoon. They don't go out to dinners. They ain't going and catching a tan on the beach. Alberto is out there like a heron walking across the flats.
That's what I wanted to get. That's where I think a lot of our listeners can kind of pick up on. It's a great story.
The
but
dude
he is
the
just
most committed to the sport as anybody I've ever seen in my life. He comes here with the intentions of catching fish, and through all of these tough days, the pictures that I get from those guys, and I'll share some to the Facebook page later today, what they've been catching over the last 10 days that they've been here. Crazy speckled trout, redfish, black drum, just the dedication, the patience, the skill level of putting the fly where it needs to be is unmatched by anybody I've ever seen before. So whenever I spend 30 days with him, Alberto always brings my game up to a new level. It's like, I want to be like this dude. And it's been cool. And they've become great friends, amazing friends over the years. We keep in touch all year long when they're not here fishing, and having them here is just fun. And it's just a good time out there with those guys.
You know, the thing is, if and Scott, this, you know, if somebody told me you can only fish for 30 days a year, you know, or 20 days a year, however long, you know, that this span is, I think we're taking stuff for granted sometimes, because I would be out there just like Alberto, like every second you can possibly fish when you're not eating or sleeping. You want to be out there. Something to be learned for, you know, about the people love like redfish, and Caleb was talking about the big redfish he caught, and people outside of Texas and Louisiana, like they think that's gold. Like that's the standard. Like they come from all over. Like, what is the craziest story you've had of someone coming just because they want to catch a redfish? You know, that fantastic fish that people almost has an aura about it.
Now, I had a 94-year-old man contact me out of the Panhandle, and he said, "Bucket list fish. I want to catch a redfish on fly. I've caught all kind of other fish. I've done this. I've done that. Bonefish. He's done all kind of stuff, but he really wanted a redfish on the fly, and booked me for 2 days. And the first day, we had school and fish, and they kept coming down the shorelines. I kept saying, "Okay, there they come. Here they come. You got them?" "Yeah, I got them." And he could cast, but he would cast in completely the wrong direction. I mean, just like not even close to the fish. But if you told him hit that point, hit by that duck blind, he'd hit it. So I knew it wasn't that. And finally I asked him, I said, "Are you seeing these fish? I mean, they're up on top, they're schooling." He says, "No, not really." So day two, I vectored him in on them. You know, it's like, okay, here they come, cast to the shoreline. You know, when I say cast to the shoreline, you see the shoreline, right? Yep. And now cast. And we finally got him hooked up, and he got his first ever redfish at 94 years old.
That is awesome.
But then his wife was picking him up, and she picked him up from Louis. And I said, "Oh, I didn't know your wife was picking you up and dropping you off. I hadn't noticed." And because he was just sitting there when I got there. Mm-hmm. And he said, "Yeah, I got to go have cataract surgery Monday."
No kidding. No kidding. You shouldn't be behind the wheel. You shouldn't be.
I got a 94-year-old blind man to catch a redfish on the fly.
Well, you got me beat. You got me beat. Caleb?
I had a fella come get on the boat one time. I picked him up from their house on the river there, and get him loaded in the boat and get his buddy in there. And as I'm starting to leave, his wife comes flying out of the house, and she hands me this little brown bottle about 2 inches tall, about an inch around. I said, "What's this?" She said, "That's nitroglycerin." And I was like, "Shit, is it explosive?"
Can you make a bomb out of it?
Yeah. And she said, "If he falls out, stick one under his tongue." I said, "Why?
If
what?
He falls out?"
That's what she said. What? I said, "What?" She said, "Oh yeah, he's got a big open heart surgery here in a couple of days. And said a bunch of stuff I don't understand, but basically he's about to die." Yeah. And I was like, I told her, I said, "You realize that if anything happens, best case scenario is a helicopter gets to me somewhere and it takes 45 minutes for him to get there, right?"
Yeah.
She says, "Oh, he'll be fine. He'll be fine." I said, "What's a life insurance policy?" Because the math in here, lady. But yeah, he's supposed to have some sort of big surgery, and yeah, that was probably my most memorable. Just random dude getting on my boat.
Hey, I had a lady kayak fishing with me one day, and so we had been paddling for a few hours, and she starts grabbing her chest, and she's like, "Oh, my heart," and I was like, "What do you mean your heart?" And so she's got this little bottle, this little thing hanging around her neck, and she starts unscrewing the cap, and she's like, she's like, I'll take one of these pills, I'll be okay. And she opens it up, and she's like, "Oh my God, they got wet." And I was thinking, I was like,
oh Lord.
I was like, drink that stuff.
Drink it.
And it was nitro pills, and it was one of those deals where she was she was older, and wanted to get out and to have a nice experience on the kayak, just wanted to try something different. And after the whole thing was over, I said, somebody should have told me about that situation when we started this trip, and it would be not as alarming to me at this point. But she scooped what was left of them pills out
and
of
she was
that
fine
and swallowed them down. It was okay, but man, it got a little sketchy there for a minute.
To make you feel better, Dean, it doesn't help at all whenever they tell you before they come fishing with you either.
You're just like, what? Then you're thinking about it all day. You're thinking about, like, we've all done a lot of trips. Obviously, Roy Crush does such a great job with the Texas Boys Outdoors. We got the Heroes on the Water, which, by the way, that's coming up, isn't it? Registration, Scott. The Heroes on the Water.
Yeah. I got a note from Camille to talk about it.
All right, we'll talk about it now, because we all do stuff like that, and I've taken veterans out and wounded veterans out, but that's almost like you're thanking them. It's kind of like cherry on top for their experience, just to catch fish. They just want to be out there and all that. When you've got guys like, and you reminded me, I had a buddy of mine a few years ago that he wanted to take his dad fishing with us. I was like, well, sure. And he goes, he's a great guy, blah, blah, blah. He's got terminal cancer. And I went, pardon? Like, he just wanted to catch. I mean, it's selfish of me to think this, because, the poor gentleman, was in I forget what kind of cancer, but he had terminal cancer. But all of a sudden I start thinking about me. I'm like, if this poor guy, if I don't put him on fish, I mean, it's like one of his bucket list things.
Yep.
And I don't know how you guys do that, because that whole day I was just white knuckling everywhere. And I bought bait. I bought, and I never fish with bait hardly. I bought live bait. I bought chunks of, I got mullet, and I got plastics and all that. And I'm like throwing the kitchen. He finally caught some fish, but I was like, man, I don't want to do that again. Yeah, he's dying. Can you take him fishing?
Yeah, I've had several where the son brings dad along and says this is probably his last trip.
God almighty.
I've had probably, I don't know, 6 or 7 of those.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them, we had to lift him and put him in the boat. Lift him off the dock, get him in the boat. And we had hell getting him back out of the boat because the damn tide went out. And we couldn't get back up on the dock. But those trips come along, and you think there's a little bit of pressure when you're guiding or when you're fishing a tournament.
Yeah.
Those days, there's real pressure involved.
Yes, trust me, I know.
it gets pretty intense.
Mm-hmm. Hey, go ahead.
The tournament. I'm the tournament director this year.
I'm glad I reminded you.
Yeah, I got voluntold.
Yeah,
to be the tournament director, and it's the 4th annual Jim Dolan Kayak Fishing Tournament. Heroes on the Water, September 16th to October 1st. There's 7 tournaments. There's freshwater, saltwater, 7 different regions. You sign up for whatever your region is. Each one has different fish to be caught within the tournament rules. It's all on there. You can go to heroesonthewater.org and register for the tournament. It's an online tournament. And in fact, we have a meeting this evening to go over the rules and how we're supposed to do judging and all that stuff. But all the photos come through us, and we look at the photos, and you've got to have it measured a certain way in order.
And you can use one of those apps, one of those good apps.
Yeah, it's an app. I forgot the name of it. They're going to kill me. But anyway, there's that.
It's not Fish Donkey.
No.
It's another one. Anyway, we'll figure it out.
Anyway, it's an easy app. I looked through it. I signed up on it just to play around with it a little bit, and it's real simple, real easy. There's also a raffle involved. You can purchase raffle tickets, 10 for $20, 30 for 50, 60 for 100. I know Dean loves raffles, and
Dean
raffle
loves
ends on
raffles.
October 1st.
Yeah.
And there's T-shirts and decals and stuff like that you can buy. All the money goes to Heroes on the Water and helps us get our kayak stuff going for the veterans and first responders that need to go out and kayak fish to chill out, get their mind right.
That's fantastic. And I'm always glad to be a part of that. Glad I reminded you. Since we're talking tournaments real quick, before we get to what would Scott do, what would Caleb do, what would Dean do, I got a text and reminded myself from Chet Moore and Pooty over at Freedom Boats. The Freedom Boats Owners Tournament is September 23rd. I'm sure you can get that in there. And I think they might even be giving away a Chiquita boat, but they're looking for some more teams, freedomboatsusa.com. I'm going to be in it. I don't know what I'm going to find because I'm fishing this weekend, but then next weekend I got to go to a wedding. So I'm going to do some serious 2-week out scouting. I don't know how much that's going to help me, but I'll be scouting all over the place in Aransas this weekend for that September 23rd tournament. I don't know if you're going to be in it, Scott, but you're going to go to the thing right there in Port O'Connor, the weigh-in and everything.
Yeah, it's in Port O'Connor, and I'll hang out. I did last year. I kind of come up there and hang out. Chet wanted me to get in it. He was bugging me about getting involved in it and entering. And I told us, man, I don't feel right doing it.
Yeah, I get it.
I'm on their pro staff, and I'm a guide. I'd rather the regular fisherman
like me
not have, just be able to get in there and go fish and not have to think that they're competing against somebody that gets to fish all the time. And I mean,
it's a blast. I think he already has like 18, 20 teams trying to get into the 30s. So if you have a Freedom boat, it's a lot of fun. I'm gonna fish with both my sons. I've fished in tournaments with one or the other, but I've never fished with both of them in a tournament. So that'll be fun. We're gonna get a place down there. Maybe a place very familiar to Dean. Huh?
He just kept saying, "Go ahead and enter it. Go ahead and enter it. And if you win it, it's no big deal." But
you know how that is.
It's
gonna be
kind of weird about it. I mean, I'm not saying I'm a prohibited favorite by any means. I don't tournament fish like that. I'm fishing for numbers. I'm not really fishing for big fish and tournament quality fish. But at the same time, it would feel a little odd if
I get it. I get it.
But he said, just win it and you can sell the boat.
Okay, how about I do that instead? I'm not a pro. I have no shame. I'll be happy to win that tournament. Hey, Caleb, what has been happening in Louisiana before we get to what would Scott do? We have a lot of listeners there. You were all over the place. Is there anything our Louisiana listeners need to know before we get to what would Caleb do?
No, now that the tides came down a little bit, the marshes were fairly alive. There were a lot of fish on the edges of the bigger lakes. But Louisiana was pretty good the last 2 days I was there. The 10 days leading up to it, fairly depressing. Daniel's over there right now scouting for the World Series. He sent me some videos. Looks like the fish are schooling.
When is that?
Some cool things. It ends on October 1st, I believe. So it's 4 days leading up to October 1st, whatever that September. I don't know how to do the finger thing for how many days it is.
So that would be September 28th to October. No, September 29th to October 1st.
4 days, however many that is.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's the end of September essentially. And I'm not going to be done tournament fishing. I'll still fish the Rojo Classic and the Castaway Classic, the bigger ones that are around here.
Good.
Anything that pays over 20 grand, I'll show up, but it's just not going to be the traveling away from home for 2 weeks to do it.
Yeah, as intense. All right. What would Scott do? What would Caleb do? What would Dean do? Dean, I'm going to pay very close attention to what you say here because I got 2 weeks until this tournament, so I got to make some hay this weekend to try to find some fish. What would you do this weekend down in the Aransas Pass area?
According after what I saw today, I'm going to be on the shallowest grass beds I can find. We have really high tide this morning. Even if it stays there, hopefully it does. You know, you be on the shallowest flats on places that, you know, you can barely skim to. You shut it down and you commit to nice long drifts. You know, you're not going to blast out of there when you get to it, but you want to set up a spot where you're going to run in, shut it down, and drift out to deeper water, out to the drop off, and spend as much time on the flats as possible. Today I did, you know, very long drifts. I picked flats where I could cover, you know, about 1.5 miles, sometimes even a little bit more. And even the wind shifted directions today. It was kind of out of the east early, and then it turned around to the south. And on south winds, you know, in Redfish Bay, you can do super long drifts. But I'm going to stick with the topwater action. And I mean, I'm kind of anticipating, you know, an early fall type of conditions. We saw schools of redfish that were, I mean, they were on the move. Look, I mean, they looked like a herd.
Yeah.
Just see the wakes from 50 yards away.
And that hadn't been happening.
No, they've been singled out. They've been very suspicious through the heat of summer. Really I didn't look at the temperature gauge today. I didn't really pay attention to what it was. I never even turned the GPS on today. Didn't really have time to. As soon as we shut it down and started fishing, we were getting some great bites. But I'm going to stick with that. You know, I'm going to stick with the fall type of program. The jetties, they kind of got blown out after the storm. I've had a couple of people go out there and without a whole lot of success. So, I mean, I'm not going to say that's over for the year, but the kingfish may have moved out a little bit out of range of the jetty type of fishing. And speckled trout are going to start to move in with those redfish. That's another thing. During the heat of summer, reds are going to be where they are. Speckled trout are going to be where they are. Those things are going to start to intermingle more as the days get shorter. And in spite of the temperatures, like we said, the teal are flying, hummingbirds, the migration is on. Oh, today every time I picked up the drift socks and they shook out on the floor of the boat, tons of little baby shrimp and crabs. So that probably had a lot to do with why those fish were where they were today.
Yeah, no question. Scott, what would you do? But also, you had some good luck, it looked like, this week with the tarpon.
Yeah, and it's that time of year, man. September's always good for tarpon.
That was a nice one that you posted.
Yeah, that was a good fish. As one of our listeners, Ben Byers, he was all over it.
Yeah,
wore his butt out, man.
I guess
that fish put a hurt on him, but he did pretty good. Then we hooked, I think, 4 or 5. I don't remember now, but you know, we got jumps out of several fish, and he had another one hooked up for, I don't know, 4 or 5 minutes before it came off. But the big one that he ended up landing, that was a really nice fish. And I got in trouble with the local fly folks for even mentioning it.
Oh yeah,
it's so funny.
Come on,
man.
Come on.
Yeah, I mean, the tom-toms were beaten. I'm sure Dean heard about it too. He's very good friends with a couple of them that don't like all that, but
they want to keep them to themselves.
Yeah, I mean, and I didn't mention anything about where I was or any, no details at all. And in the video, all you can see is water.
Ain't nobody worrying about them people's feelings. They can get right.
Yeah,
just as.
But on Saturday, I will be bundled up. I got an east wind that's going to be blowing.
Bundled up.
Where are you going? Where you headed?
I got east wind at 3 to 7, and my morning temperature is going to be 38 with a high of 54 at about 4 p.m. So, yeah, I'm going to be bundled up. I'm going to bring me some long johns, and Sunday's looking pretty close to the same with a little bit more wind. Yeah, it's a northeast wind.
Nobody likes to show off.
And the temperature on Sunday is going to be 42 to 54. So
just say it. Just say it.
Yeah, Alaska's gonna be pretty cool, man. Alaska's gonna be all right.
That's badass.
We'll get away from this 100-degree stuff.
I got one of those memories that popped up a couple of days ago from my Alaska trip. Man, it's been 8 years. God, I got to get back up there. But
don't step on any bears while you're walking out the door.
Dude, I'm telling you, man, it was wild even when we were there last time.
The warmest it's going to be is 55 degrees.
Yeah,
the whole time I'm there. So.
Like I said, nobody
I don't
likes
think
to show
it's
off.
55 degrees in my refrigerator right now.
It's probably not.
So I'm going to leave it to you guys for next Tuesday because I don't think I'll
take
have
the
any
Tuesday,
service
take the
up
week
there.
off.
Yeah,
So,
we want a full
next
report.
week I'm out, guys. I'm in Nicaragua next week.
You and me, Caleb.
You going south? I'm going north.
Yep.
I got it.
Boy, are we gonna have fun?
I got invited to Rio Negro to peacock bass fish, but turns out I'm not nearly as wealthy as Scott and Dean, so I'm just going to be right around here.
Yeah. So Caleb, I don't care what kind of baseball you have, you're in next week. We'll get you in.
Caleb, all you got to do is cash one of them checks on your wall behind you. I don't know who you're kidding. You don't see no checks hanging on the wall behind me.
9,000. I'll say the numbers. I see 9,000. I see 11,000. I see 21,000. Come on now.
I keep taking pictures of them and trying to do the direct deposit with Chase, and it keeps kicking back to me.
That would be an awesome story. That would be like, holy, we've accepted your deposit. Really?
Yeah.
Really? You have. Hey, how about we get Patrick on with you next week? I'll run a little interference on that. That'll be fun.
I'm going to be in Louisiana, but this actually really annoys me. I'm staying down in Hackberry, and they have like gigabit speed fiber optic internet way the heck down in Hackberry. Yeah. I live beside the Consolidated Communications Internet Hub. Literally, I have to weed eat around the damn thing, and I can't get internet for anything in my home. But Hackberry, I'm gonna have some sweet internet. We'll be good to go.
All right, you, me, and Pat, and while these two show-offs go to Nicaragua and Alaska, but we want full reports when you guys come back. Anything to add on what would Caleb do? What you're in Middle Coast now? What are you thinking? Help our guys out.
I tell you what I'm going to do. They're having a like almost a festival for that Needville team that just got back from World Series. I'm going to go be doing that, and then I know at least two to three out of y'all watched it, and a lot of people in the comments watched it. But I'm going to bust Airwaves podcast back out and have DJ Jablonski and his dad, who was a coach, talk about their summer, because DJ was probably one of the more prolific players up there. That'd be cool. But as far as fishing wise, Dean's pretty well on it, man. They're schooling up here too, rolling down grass edges, maybe a back lake here or there. So that's pretty solid information.
That makes me happy, Dean. You guys are the best, man. Seriously though, have a great time in Nicaragua. When are you coming back, Dean?
You don't know? The 19th, so I'm probably going to miss 2 weeks.
Okay. And Scott, when are you coming back?
The 15th.
Yeah. All right. We'll figure it out.
You going up there to check on your reindeer, Santa?
Yeah.
He does look the part. He absolutely looks the part right now.
It's going to take me 2 days to fly there and 2 days to fly back.
Get past your reindeer. Get past your reindeer.
Get Dasher. Get Donner. Get Blitzen. All right, boys. A fun show as always. Appreciate everybody who was with us live. And we'll have a fun show next week. Got Captain Pat probably going to join us. Catch him up. We'll talk to you next time.